sometimes gets lost in it is people get lost in the day-to-day. We are making a difference in people's lives every single day. And that is a great responsibility, but it's also very rewarding.
We are joined, as promised, by the President and CEO of the Christ Hospital Health Network, Debbie Hayes. Debbie, I'm really excited that you were able to come on and talk about all the different things you guys are doing. Thanks for being here.
Well, Jack, thanks for having us.
I want to start out with trying to help people get a perspective on where does it start for you? We went through history and sort of a top-down look at this very large organization, this massive health nonprofit that's in the area. But where does it start for you? What's a way for people that are outside watching right now to have a perspective on what it's like to be the head of such a big organization?
Right. Well, you know, it really goes back to the history that you just talked about, and it is a pursuit of excellence. And so our mission statement talks about that, improving the health of our community by creating value for the people that we serve. And we do that by making sure they have extraordinary clinical outcomes, extraordinary experiences for them and their families, and doing so in the most affordable way so that everyone in this region can get the health care that they so richly deserve.
Yeah, affordability is a big part of what you guys have explicitly in the mission statement, and that seems like that's an ever-present challenge.
Well, and it is, because healthcare is by nature expensive. There's a lot of technology, there's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of drug therapies that are coming out, but our mission is to try and make sure that we're doing things in the most effective and efficient way so that we can keep the costs as low as possible.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's the goal. The Christ Hospital Health Network being an independent organization, I would imagine that sort of brings its own opportunities and challenges, pros and cons with it. You've got a lot of other organizations that are consolidated, big health organizations. What are the upsides of being an independent group?
Well, being in an independent organization, you have a little more flexibility to move a little more nimbly. But I'll be honest with you, in the healthcare industry in general, the challenges are the same, whether you're big or small. And so it's just a different scale. But we can move a little more quickly than in some larger organizations just by the nature of the scale and complexity of those particular organizations. Do
you ever have a moment where you sort of look back, and I mean, you know, that sort of brief list of innovations that the organization has had over the years, going back to the start of the last century, and you guys are still doing new stuff. Are there ever times when you like really step back and just marvel at the accomplishment of the people that are with you guys?
It's every day. I mean, people ask me all the time, do you love your job? And I'm like, who else gets to wake up every morning and know that you're going to positively impact some member of this community's life? And so when I look at all those innovations, and there are many more, it's pretty extraordinary what the team has been able to accomplish so that the people in Cincinnati don't ever have to leave this community to get the best health care anywhere in the country.
Yeah. Is it tough sometimes getting the word out? Or, I mean, that's a part of the plan.
It is, and you know, the way that we have communicated over the years certainly has changed. You know, lots of paper, lots of old ways of thinking, and now social media and the internet, and how do you communicate with patients both when they're your patients and when they're not, is all changing.
That's an interesting idea, that communicating with people when they're not your patients, thinking about ways to get messaging to folks outside of maybe just traditional advertising, but messaging. Here's a group of doctors that just accomplished this. I think we do have one of your recent social media posts about a group of doctors that pulled off the heart and kidney accomplishment that you guys had. That's part of the overall process.
Absolutely. And so, you know, you're referencing, we have been doing heart transplant at the Christ Hospital Health Network since 2022, November of 2022. We've now done 63 heart transplants, and 2 of those were heart-kidney transplants together. First ever in this community. And so how do we make sure that the whole community understands that that is available here in the city and they don't have to go elsewhere?
Yeah, and that's a big part of the overall picture, right? Keeping people here, not keeping them here in the sense that you're holding on to them, but letting them know that there's the level of care that they need that is just available here, and you don't have to immediately think, well, I got to go to a bigger city.
Right. And as the CEO, my goal and our team's goal is to make sure that the community knows that you never have to leave Cincinnati to get the finest health care anywhere in the country.
Yeah, and I think you're in an interesting position. You're in a unique position to have an awareness of that, maybe different than others because of your involvement with other organizations in this area. You're a part of Ready Cincinnati,
Yes.
the economic development organization, obviously involved with the regional chamber. So you've got that sort of zoomed out view, and then knowing how important it is for people to understand that this area is just as good for medical care and research as any place else is.
Actually, I would say we're better than many, many communities.
Yeah.
And, you know, we are a community organization. We exist to serve the community. And so everything that we do is all about how do we serve this community in a way that allows people to stay here and live here and play here and work here and never have to leave.
Yeah, which I know that, you know, there's a lot of other outfits that would have similar messaging. Do you guys, how much interaction are you having with other, you know, medical facilities in this region in terms of talking about messaging to people or letting them know that this is a great place to be?
Right. So we work together collaboratively amongst all of the health systems. I am very good friends and colleagues with all the CEOs across this region and elsewhere because, again, there isn't a healthcare system anywhere in America that's not trying to serve the community. And so, yes, we are intensely competitive, which is a good thing.
Sure.
Because that breeds extraordinary quality. But we also understand what our missions are, which is to serve the communities. And so we work collaboratively on many projects. I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please.
There's one called Project Heart Restart. We have raised over $2 million now to put automatic external defibrillators in all patrol cars in Hamilton County, the city of Cincinnati, the 7 counties in northern Kentucky, the 5 counties in southwest Indiana, and we're getting ready to announce next week Butler County, so that every patrol car will have an automatic external defibrillator, all supported by the business community and all of the health systems.
And so that's not just an initiative of you guys. This is a work together. Let's benefit everybody.
Correct.
To have this available.
It was started at the Christ Hospital, and we do that in community with business leaders, but all the health systems have participated, but we're leading those efforts.
What has the response to initiatives like that been? Obviously, everybody's going to be like, yeah, that's a great idea. We want to help.
Well, we're saving lives by working together as a community, and that's what we should all be doing. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, no, that's incredible, and that's like one of a million different initiatives and achievements and accomplishments that you guys are working on and list. You know, we talked about cost and the challenges of affordability. Mm-hmm. What other economic headwinds as an organization are you guys, you know, dealing with, expecting in just the coming year? I mean, there's always different challenges which can also then in and of themselves be opportunities.
Right. Well, you know, there are a lot of changes at the federal level, and you can't pick up the newspaper or listen to a podcast or whatever and not hear about the federal government's thoughts on how healthcare is reimbursed. And those changes that are coming are going to be extremely impactful to people. There are going to be folks that had insurance that now don't have it. And there are going to be reductions in reimbursements to hospitals, health systems, and physicians that are really challenging the health systems to be able to provide the kind of care that people need.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you do other than just, is it just let's make the best preparations we can? Certainly, your involvement in other elements economically in this region with the chamber and just having connections in general. There's got to be maybe a little bit of dialogue with people that are representing this area in Washington in some way, right?
Right. Well, we have a government affairs advocacy department, and I meet, as do all the other health system CEOs, with a lot of our legislators to try and help them understand the dynamics of healthcare economics, but it also breeds the need for all of us to sharpen our pencils and get with our teams and figure out how we innovate the way that we deliver care. So you think about things like, how do we provide virtual care to make it more affordable for people to get great access, but maybe do so at a lower cost? We work with our supply vendors to make sure that we're getting the lowest possible cost to buy goods and services, because in healthcare, we are nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
Every dollar that we make goes back into the platform to make sure that we can continue to provide care.
You were talking about virtual care just now, and you've been, I think, in a really unique position to see the way that healthcare has changed, specifically when it comes to virtual doctor visits and telehealth. How has that changed things just from what you knew beforehand to the last, 6 or 7 years?
Well, it's pretty extraordinary when you think about it because, it increases the ability for people to get care without the hassle, right? There are some people that it's very hard for them to get to a physician office, and there are some that will never get there unless they have the ability to do that. What we want them to do is have access to providers in the appropriate care setting so that they're not always coming to the emergency room because they have no other option.
Yeah. And then that frees doctors up to see more patients on a regular basis, maybe see folks who are in worse shape than if you just maybe got a cough and let me log into a call and tell me, what does this sound like, right?
Right. The other thing that we're doing is working a lot on preventative care. So there's a word called precision health, precision medicine that 5 or 6 or maybe 8 years ago, people didn't even know what that word meant, which is we are doing blood tests now to understand what your own genes do in terms of how it responds to treatments.
Oh, wow.
Well, we change medications now based on those tests. It wasn't available before, so it makes medications more effective in treating certain disease processes.
Yeah, boy, the innovation is just crazy, and there's an educational element to all of this.
All of this, and so as part of our mission, we love to educate the next generation. So we have partnerships with many of the local universities. The University of Cincinnati, we're helping to support Xavier University as they bring up their new osteopathic College of Medicine. We're partnering with Miami University to make sure that we are training the next generation so that when I'm ready to retire, there are people coming behind me that have the latest and greatest and have a workforce that's there to support their needs. And then the other thing at the Christ Hospital Health Network, we have what's called the Carl and Edith Lindner Cardiovascular Research and Education Center, where we are doing cardiovascular and other research in oncology and orthopedics to bring the first in man, the first in the country, and oftentimes the first in the city to this region so that people get the finest care before anybody else.
Yeah. That's the goal. That's great.
That is the goal.
You mentioned a bunch of different universities, and we do have to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about Debbie Hayes' specific journey, which I believe involves attendance at just about all of those different universities in some way or another, going from the emergency room to the boardroom. More on that when we get back. You're watching The Working Lunch on The Crown. Stick around.
Everything it takes to be number one for you. What does that mean? It means we are all on one team, on one mission. Sworn to do everything we can for you to receive the highest level of care in ways you never thought possible. It's providing groundbreaking, life-saving treatments offered nowhere else in the country. It's fighting to provide you with affordable health care and guiding you through your journey so you never feel alone. Everything it takes means collaborating and partnering with the best physicians, clinicians, and researchers in the country to assure no stone is left unturned and you never have to leave home for top care. Our commitment to everyone, inside and outside our walls, is to be here and be the best for you and your family. Because you are our family. It's why U.S. News and World Report has ranked us the #1 hospital in the Cincinnati region for the 10th year in a row. A decade of excellence in compassionate care and superior outcomes. And that is what it means to do everything it takes for you.
Welcome back to The Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. That's a little promo video from the Christ Hospital Health Network. I'm joined by Debbie Hayes, who is the president and CEO of that organization. Debbie, your journey is from being a nurse, a student nurse, right?
A student nurse aide, yes.
To now being the president and CEO. Is this a story that you get tired of everybody wanting to make a big deal about? I feel like this is fascinating, but I mean, you've probably told this a million times.
I have, and I love the story because it just goes to show what and how important this organization is, because many people would have never had the opportunities that I have had, and I've been in the right place at the right time, and I've been able to make a difference, but not all organizations would allow that to happen. And I think it's just extraordinary that we have a company that promotes from within as much as we possibly can, And I've been the recipient of that growth and development, and it's just been an amazing ride.
Yeah, truly. I mean, starting out on that student nursing side, going to school within the Christ Hospital's nursing program, right? The in-house nursing program,
Yes.
which then ultimately led to going to UC, going to Xavier, going to NKU as you worked your way up in the organization.
Yes, my father used to ask me all the time, "Are you ever going to graduate?" And
That's a good dad question.
I was a critical care nurse by background, but I needed to learn more in order to serve the organization well. And so the wonderful universities that we have in this community had great programs, and I sprinkled it around a little bit, but it's been lovely.
Do you, is there any effort, I mean, obviously you're really busy now running this whole thing, but I mean, is there an ability for you to be able to keep in touch with some of those other elements of the jobs that you had before doing the nursing stuff and other technical elements or organizational elements?
Well, if you ask the team members that we have at the Christ Hospital Health Network, they know that Debbie's coming at some point. I go visit patients every day to make sure that...
You go visit patients every day?
Every single day, at least 3 or 4 patients every day. Or I go visit an office, or I go, down to our central sterile and supply area to make sure that I stay in touch with what's going on in the health network.
And that's for you specifically to flex some of those old nursing muscles.
Yep, and I connect with the team members that we have. I connect with the patients, their families. I can understand what we're doing well, understand what opportunities we might have to be better. And then obviously my work in the community helps me keep in touch with what's going on across the greater Cincinnati region.
Yeah, is it hard, or is it just something that you're used to having built up to this point in keeping your ear to the ground on that sort of thing, keeping a finger on the pulse, medically speaking?
Well, but it's important because, again, we're here to serve the community, and I need to understand where we are doing a really extraordinary job, where we're not, or where the healthcare needs of a particular community are not met. So we're getting ready to expand, and actually we're about to open and expand our Liberty birthing area. We're going to double the capacity there because of the tremendous need for mother-baby care in the Liberty Township, Westchester area. We are building in Union, Kentucky and in Cold Springs because the community is demanding to have a choice for how they and where they get their health care at.
Well, and those are areas that you just mentioned that have seen significant population booms, a lot more commercial development, residential development. Those bigger suburbs that used to be really rural are now really seeing a lot of growth.
Absolutely, but the other thing is we never forget the core. Mm-hmm. The main part of the health system sits here in downtown Cincinnati, and we're not going to abandon that. But our strategy is to have a hub and spoke model so that the very complicated things are done at the health system's main campus, and the things that are a little bit easier and happen a little bit more frequently are closer to people's homes.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the strength of being the health network, right?
Yes.
You have an interesting bit in your career journey also, and this is something that you and I have a little bit in common in terms of, I believe you were named interim president and CEO in November of 2020, which was probably a really fun time to move into leadership in the medical field. What was that like for you?
Well, to be honest, Jack, a bit terrifying, right? So I was the chief operating officer at the time. It was in the middle of the pandemic, and I was now the interim CEO.
I mean, that was us going into our first winter.
Yes. Yes, it was quite crazy. So I was trying to figure out, just like we all were in healthcare, how do you just get through the day, let alone how do you lead this ship through the worst pandemic since 1912?
Right. Yeah, the whole world was sick. You're in a leadership position, and you know how hard those nurses and doctors are working on the different floors.
Right. But, here's what I always say about the Christ Hospital Health Network. It is all about the team. Yeah. And what I watched during that time is extraordinary team members all rallying around the cause to make sure whatever the challenge of the day was. And sometimes we were changing protocols hourly, sometimes daily because supplies weren't available or whatever it happened to be. And they were always right there. What can I do? How can I help? We had people who in the health network did jobs that they never thought they would be doing because we needed them to do it, and they put their hands up willingly and said, I will.
Does your perspective on how you came up and the work that people like that are doing, does that inform any kind of ability to offer care to your employees in terms of dealing with stressful times like during COVID, or even when there isn't a global pandemic going on?
Right. You know, healthcare is very emotionally challenged, and because you're dealing with people's health. And so they have circumstances outside when they come to whether it's a physician office or to the hospital, that we have to be in tune with that. So we have to take care of the people so they can take care of people. And so we have a lot of wellness initiatives. We have what we call Schwartz rounds, so people can get together and talk about their challenges. We have lots of fun where we can have fun to try to make sure that people stay energized. We feed people a lot, right? But it is emotionally challenging because you want to give the best, but you can't give the best if you aren't the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be able to be operating at full capacity to be able to help those that are definitely not feeling that way. What is it like for you in terms of being the president and CEO and the lessons that you learned coming up as a nurse and in the technical side of things? Are there things from that time that inform your leadership decisions or policies now?
Yes, absolutely. So I meet with all the new team members every Monday when they come. And I say this to them. First of all, we have to keep the main thing, which is our mission. Why do we exist? Secondly, we always need to work with shared determination to overcome the challenges. And the third thing is that every member of our team is valuable. It's just like our great sports teams, right? Everybody from the water person to the pitcher to the catchers to the quarterbacks, right? But it's the whole team that has to come together to provide for the community. And then the last thing is what sometimes gets lost in it is people get lost in the day-to-day. We are making a difference in people's lives every single day. And that is a great responsibility, but it's also very rewarding.
Yeah, that's a lot. And keeping track of a lot of that and then looking to keep that going, finding momentum and building on the innovation and the teamwork in terms of what's to come. You guys have a new partnership with Miami University in terms of training future healthcare professionals. Concerns about doctor shortages that I know I've seen over the last couple of years. What is that like for you guys on the educational side and trying to make plans for the future?
Yeah, it's really quite amazing. So Northeast Ohio Medical University, we call it NeoMed, they call it NeoMed, and Miami University and Xavier, right? So the predictions for healthcare shortages in Ohio and across the nation are fairly extraordinary. Hundreds of thousands of physician shortages, nursing shortages, and other technicians. So our philosophy is if we train people early in their careers and they understand the value of the environment in which they train, then they'll stay here in Cincinnati. Yeah. So the more that we train, the more likely we are to not be on that curve.
And that also fits in with things like the mission of the regional chamber, where we want to make this the area that's the best for people to live in and to work in, because we want to keep attractive jobs and have people want to stay here and build their careers here versus maybe just going to school and then going to a bigger city.
Exactly. And Cincinnati is a great place to live. But as we think about that, if you come to this area, you want to have great schools and great businesses and great health care. And so if we can make sure that we can do our part, then Greater Cincinnati will thrive.
Let me ask you this, and I feel a little bit, I don't know if I feel weird bringing it up. Is it weird for me to ask you about your leadership philosophies and lessons that you have learned over the years, specifically as a woman in a leadership position? It's 2026. The idea of making a big deal out of a woman in charge of something feels a little played out. But, are there elements are you looking to reach out to younger women on their way up? Does that inform any of your decisions in this position that you're in now?
Yeah, it's not a weird question. Only 15% of the CEOs in healthcare are women.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And so it's our responsibility to make sure that percentage continues to climb. So I taught at Xavier University for 10 years to try and help people develop. We are preceptors for many of the local universities to make sure that we are bringing people along in their careers to encourage them to be part of the healthcare ecosystem. And we have programs within the organization that try and help people understand what their career paths and their development is, whether you're a man or a woman.
Yeah.
It's still really, really important that we are developing the next generation. And then, like in our physician contingent, we have a thing called Women in Medicine. And so it's a very vibrant group of female physicians, because years ago, it was probably 80-20 men to women.
Sure.
Now it's 60-40 women to men in medical schools. And so the next generation will be many more females than there are gentlemen.
That's got to be really gratifying for knowing the work that you've put in over the years.
It is. And what I love to see is that everybody's working together, right? And people do things differently, perhaps, but the perspective of both is really important.
Yeah. We've got about maybe a minute left. And, we talked about obviously running this organization and your involvement in a lot of different boards and organizations here in town. Do you have any time to do stuff for you? What do you do for fun?
Well, everybody at the Health Network knows I'm a huge Bengals fan, so you'll find me at all the football games. I love sports. I grew up with two brothers, so that is part of just what I do. I love the arts. I am the chair of Arts Wave right now.
One more thing.
You could find me at the Aronoff on any particular night or at a concert, and I love to read and I love to bike, and I love to spend time with my family.
One thing I want to dip into before we go, the Christ Hospital has a new website that you guys announced just maybe about a month or so ago. That's a kind of a big deal.
It's a big deal because, again, how do we interact with our community, right? And we are trying to make it easier for people to access whatever they want or need from us. And how do we help communicate in a more effective way? And my PR and marketing team has done a great job, and I hope that the community loves it as much as we do.
Yeah, that website, thechristhospital.com. Debbie Hayes is the president and CEO of the Christ Hospital Health Network. Debbie, thank you for coming on the show. It was really great talking to you.
Jack, thank you for having me here.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.